Today's episode topic, goals. Welcome to the A to Z podcast. Everybody, with Amber. Welcome to the A to Z podcast with Amber Long and Zachary Birdsong. You held that out for a long time. That's good.
Yeah. It wasn't planned. I probably, if I had planned it,
you probably could have breathed in and yep. And so we're going to talk about goals, just kind of in a general sense. Do you want to go ahead and read off the definition, or do you want me to?
The definition of goals,
as defined by the Oxford Dictionary,
to which we have a subscription.
We stay subscribed.
Subscribe to your local dictionary. It's not local, that's out of Europe. Is an aim or an outcome which a person, group, or organization works toward and strives to achieve. The object of a person's ambition or effort. Later also?
Yeah, it's saying that and then also in a psychology sense, it's an end or result to which a series of actions, choices, events, etc. lead, whether consciously or unconsciously directed, and the achievement of which brings reward or satisfaction.
I think it's strange that you can have an unconsciously directed
goal. I think I kind of thought about that too, but I think it's just kind of
maybe it's like self-sabotage.
Well, yeah, that's part. Well, it depends on person to person. For you, that would be it.
Okay.
For Amber Long, you said it. You brought it up. I mean, that was an unconscious statement, girl.
I was just pondering the love.
With love. Well, you can accept with love that's a part of you.
Moving on.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then, I think that for me, something unconscious might be, I'm trying to think of a good example. But I think what it is, I can't think of one, probably because it's unconscious, but I think it's just a part of your base wiring, You're acting these things out because you want this, but you just don't really know that's exactly what it is. You haven't dug deep enough really to understand that that's why you're taking those steps, or that's why you're doing that thing, right? But it's a way, so it's probably like those things about people that it's the reason why they go to counseling, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And that's probably why it's part of the psychology definition for it, because they're like, oh, well, you know what? A lot of times when people come in to talk to us about what's going wrong in their life, it's a lot of things that have to do with what they're doing to avoid something that they don't really know that's why they're doing it. Right? So I guess that makes sense.
That's like it's a little bit separate, but kind of not. You know how there was always that trope whenever there was a sitcom and they were having people act in a theater play or whatever, and there was always one character was like, "What's my motivation?"
Oh yes,
and then
Joey Tribbiani
and
what? Friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know Friends.
Oh,
yeah.
Yikes. But that's an example of that, because he in that show he is an actor, Is he really? Yeah, he is. Yeah. So he, it's all about he kind of gets into that stuff. But yeah, I think that's a good example for that. What's really driving my character? And they're like, you're just a waiter. Your goal
is to serve the people.
Yes.
Effectively.
Yes.
And walk up to them and ask, would you like more Parmesan?
Right. At least every 10 minutes, because you want a good tip at the end of the day. That is the final goal. Yeah. As an actor, you want that fake shmoney. And I tried to look into the etymology of it. I saw that there was there are writings and stuff first using the word in this kind of way back in around the mid 1500s, but there wasn't a clear
1500
lineage of
where it came from.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, it's just a sound that appeared one day
out of nowhere. Someone said a word wrong or something, and someone took it. I don't know.
Maybe.
or it was just more verbal in nature and spread that way, and then once it did, it became more, but it doesn't seem to, it seemed to have like any kind of roots necessarily from, I mean, it talked about how maybe it could have came from this, or this word may have been involved, but it said it was unknown as to, they couldn't trace it directly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So these days, I feel like people talk about goals, but they talk a lot about also some topics we've discussed previously, which is values, which are values and success. And so what do you kind of feel like the relationship between those things are?
It feels like values are at the top,
mm-hmm.
and then what branches down from that are like your goals. And I guess success would even be above. No, values determine success, and then what you see as success, I think. Within particular realms, it may depend on kind of what type of success you're talking about. But then I think from that, once you know what your idea of success is, then you can formulate your goals. So I think it's values, your idea of success that branches down from that, and then the goals, and then below the goals are the steps it takes to get there. And there are, I think, you can have personal, career, relationship, whatever kind of goals that you want. But I would say that's how, if you were to like create a hierarchy, that's kind of how it's layered.
Yeah, I would think that because I always got really tripped up, which this makes a lot of sense, I guess, because I'm just now wrapping my mind around these concepts. But whenever you would have to do like the mission, vision, values, or values, mission, vision, I could, for strategic planning in a organization, I was at a really hard time understanding the relationship between those things. Your vision being like the final outcome, I guess, and the values being, values, what's important to you. And then the mission, I guess, that's kind of like the problem you're trying to solve, right? I
think so. I think it's more of like the action. It's the action-oriented kind of element of it, the specific statement maybe, because I think to your point, the vision is the idealized outcome.
Okay. So the mission is like, like the step, the pathway?
Kind of. It would be like, what are you doing? To provide basic services or to provide the resources that allow everyone to have their basic needs met would be like the mission maybe. And then the vision would be basically off of that, which is to have kind of like a world in which everyone has what they need in order to be able to flourish, I suppose.
And so then the goals, and then there's like goals and objectives.
Right.
Which
right.
like, I have a hard time differentiating because I feel like they're synonymous to me, but they're not in the strategic planning world.
I think the objectives are kind of like the steps.
So
you have goals and then objectives under the goals, right?
Vision, mission, values, the goal. Are the goals like the individual components that make up the vision? Like, or is it like are the goals an extension of the mission?
I think the goals are an extension of the mission because the mission is the action oriented what you're trying to do. It's like vision leads to what you want leads to mission, which is how you're going to, the main thing you're doing to get there, and then mission leads to branches off into goals, and then each goal has its own branch of objectives,
which all lead to you realizing the vision.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would think, so that's like the strategic planning framework for a group of people.
Well, and I think it's important to you can have it for your individual.
Yeah, for the individual part, I feel like that's more of like the values, goals, success.
Mm.
And I would see like your values as the why, or not even the, I don't even know. This stuff really is confusing to me. I don't know why it is, but values are like what's important to you, which defines.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of the why. It's like why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing these, like if you want to help people, if you value helping people.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
it's hard to
reconcile.
Yeah, I'm trying.
But I feel like, so like if your values are like what's important to you, like what did I say the other day when I heard it on a podcast? Like what's your value? No, it was success. She said that success was about what's going to make you feel fulfilled. What's going to make you feel fulfilled, and that's going to be based off of the things that you value, probably.
Yes.
And so within the goals, though, are just things that you're doing that will lead to it, that if you accomplish them, give you a sense of fulfillment.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that.
So I think that's how. I don't know.
No, that makes sense. And then I would say, like, kind of going along with the goals and objectives piece, because I would say, I guess if you wanted to get even smaller, you could have, because I mentioned steps earlier, you could have goals, objectives, and then steps branched off of objectives, right? If you really wanted to get like to the micro level of it all.
I don't. I do, but like it's that stuff. Being a part of like a strategic planning process, I found that to be very difficult to ascribe everything that you're doing to that framework.
Right. Well, and because in that kind of arena, I feel like your goals they're pretty big. It's not something you can do. Like someone might say that they have a goal, a sub goal for their bigger goal, which is to like if they.
It isn't a sub goal, just that's something else.
Yes, yeah.
Like
you could say it's an objective. So, but
okay.
but if you, and that's what I was going to get into with the framing of like long term versus short term goals, because you could almost say that your short term goals are objectives if they're a piece of a longer term goal. Like, because you hear people say, and this is how it is for me. If I feel overwhelmed about telling myself I need to do something, I just won't do it, because it feels like a lot. So I have to do it in kind of small steps. But even then it's kind of difficult too, because then I feel like I'm not accomplishing as much.
But to use that for an example, so let's say you have to write a paper. So the goal would be to write a paper.
To finish the paper. And so your objective could be like every weekend or like, every day, like completing a paragraph at least or something like that. Like I think that's how that could intertwine, because some people may use the word goal to describe that instead, because it's still kind of a goal.
Yeah, but I see what you mean. A goal is really like the product.
Yeah, it is. It's more in line with that, right?
The thing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, but the objective are the quote unquote steps that you kind of use to get there, because then there's micro steps, which is the one part you wouldn't want to get to, which is like, okay, if I want to do a paragraph today, the objective, if I want to write a paragraph today,
that would be like action items.
Pretty much, like I need to, like, I want to treat myself to some coffee so that I'm more like, I want to have coffee while I'm doing it, right? To give myself some type of like dopamine incentive to sitting down, and I want to make sure I didn't have any maybe today, because then I'm looking forward to it more, right? And so then I like curate my environment in a way that allows me to feel like I'm in a space that's comfortable and lends to me completing this task.
Like a ritual, almost. Yeah, it's get like yourself in the frame of mind to do something.
Right.
So, do you have any rituals for productivity?
That's been a big issue with me, is creating rituals, because the biggest part because things can, like, if it's not in my vicinity, or if I can't like see it or whatever, then out of sight, out of mind, especially when it already hasn't been curated as like a habit, right? Which is what curating your environment is attempting to go into, is to allow yourself to create a habit. You know, you're changing the circumstances that that lead you to do what it is you're already doing, so that you can start consistently doing this new activity. So if you have a paper you're wanting to finish, then yeah, you need to make sure that coffee, that setup, the lighting, like it can be like the most, like the smallest kind of things that just lead you to doing it. And it's about too making the things that you would usually do that you don't see as productive, or that don't lend themselves to completing your objective, you need to make those harder, right? That's the other piece
I thought
of
you
it.
went a different way with that.
Oh, well, then I'd like to hear.
No, I thought you were going to
thinking?
say taking those little steps, those little things that you need, because sometimes I feel like there's like little things that help you get basically like mental curation, or curating your space, that you may see as trivial.
Oh yeah,
but they're
right.
actually like, if that's not really in place, like we were speaking the other day about sometimes like if there's a chore lingering, like you can't do anything else because it's on your mind, so you got to like get it squared away before you can have the mental freedom almost to think and work on something else.
Right, you're lightening your load.
Yeah, because it's like mental clutter that you have to put everything away, so to speak, before you can have a clean room to work in that being your mind. Right. You know?
And when I was, I kind of asked Cam more about that last night in preparation for talking about this, because I was like, so when you have, like I said, when you have goals or things that you want to do, how do you go about it? You know, being somebody who feels driven to like take care of stuff and get stuff done. And her response was basically, I just do it. I just take care of it. And so like some people are just more easily wired to, you know, being consistent and productive in what it is that they're wanting to accomplish. If they have a thought that says, oh, I want this to be, or this needs to be done, they just need to do it. It's just firm. It's there.
Yeah. I feel like the one kind of maybe area of life where that's the case for me, where I'm like, you can procrastinate maybe to an extent, but like it's gonna get done, and I don't feel like I'm a little bit no nonsense about it, is like exercise. And I used to be very particular about like, you know, trying to curate the space or the habit in such a way where it had to have all these different things as a part of it. Like I needed to be wearing certain things. It needed to, you know, I needed to have eaten a certain way or drank enough water or whatever. Go to this particular, like I have to go to the gym, or I have to warm up, work out for X amount of time, go home. I was very particular at one point about that. And then I was like, these are all excuses. Like at one point,
right,
it was helpful, and then it started to become a hindrance.
Yes, because it's an overburdened expectation for how to set up.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And like sometimes, and I feel like I tell you this all the time, and it's like lower the barrier.
Yes.
For being able to accomplish your goal.
And that's why it's about setting up that environment.
Yeah.
Because if you already have it pre-ready at whatever level you need to be, and that's why
that can be part of it.
Yeah, it can be part, because when you're saying like, oh, I have to work out and stuff too, those are other bigger actions on top of other actions that would make you feel okay with doing what you wanted to do, but that is a lot, right?
Well, and that's like, so to use working out as an example, there are some people who feel like it's not working out if I didn't do 30 minutes of cardio, 20 minutes of weightlifting with dedicated stretching time after 10 to 15 minutes or whatever. I am of the mind of like anything that you do is better than nothing.
And that's exactly it.
And so part of that, which was really what really set up a really good habit for me with exercise and physical fitness. There were a couple of different things that I felt like helped me stay consistent with my goal of just wanting to be active. I wanted to be active because I've been active my whole life. I started playing sports at 5 years old, probably started dancing before that. Like, I've always been athletic in some way. So I wanted to keep that as a part of my life because I felt like a part of my identity and my values of just valuing, like, wellness. And then I wanted to be able to move in the way I wanted to be able to move for the experiences of life. Like, if I wanted to go hiking, I don't want to say no because I can't do it.
Right, because the capability is just not there.
Yeah, if I'm going out dancing with people, like, there's a certain way I want to dance. There's a certain way I want to feel. And I want to be able to continue to do that because that's what's fun for me. And that's how I make friends. I make a lot more. Socializing is very easy for me when it's around dance. Because I will just go for it and I don't care. But I noticed that when I started not feeling good about movement or feeling good about my body anymore, that I wasn't as open when I would go out to dance with my friends. And so I didn't want to feel that way. And so one of the big changes that I did was I was watching YouTube, and there were people for a period of time who were running every day for a year. And I wanted to do that. So I set that as the goal. I'm going to run every day for a year. And I'm going to run for at least 10 minutes a day. If I miss a day, I can make up the time. Because since it's 10-minute increments, they just have to be separated. It can't be 20 minutes. It has to be 10 minutes and then 10 minutes.
I see.
And then, so like to give my body the full time to recover before I run again to actually get, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to get out of it, which was like consistency.
Right.
And then I guess that was the overall goal, was like I wanted to run consistently to build self-trust. I wanted to show up for myself, and I wanted to keep promises to myself because I felt like I didn't trust myself. So that was like on a larger arc of wanting to build self-trust, was keeping the promises I make to myself. And so I set those parameters, and I also said it's enough to run in place for 10 minutes. So there were some days where it was rainy. There were some days where I was so tired I couldn't get outside or it was dark or whatever. I was like, you can run in place. And my boyfriend at the time will remember, because I was like in his living room running in place for like 10 minutes because that was a part of the goal that I had set. And it just happened to be 2020 when I started that. So there was a big thing that happened.
Yep.
It's called COVID-19 pandemic.
In case you didn't hear about it.
Yeah. And so I didn't continue. I only made it to 6 months. But I was still really proud of myself because I ran every day, or I kept my parameters for 6 months.
That's pretty significant.
And I felt great. I felt running was easier. There were periods of time where then I started, which I'd never done, where I was running for an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't but I was running every day. And so some days were just the 10 minutes. Some days were 2 10-minute increments. Some days were an hour. Some days were 30 minutes. Some days and it was up and down and up and down. But the benefits of it, the discipline of it, the friendship of it that I built with my body, was really wonderful. And I think, so when you're setting goals to that point, set yourself up for success by not being unreasonable.
Right. And I do feel like that if someone states, I'm not working out unless I do, 3 different exercises with 3 sets for each one or something like that, right? I feel like that's something that you cultivate maybe after you've already built what you're that consistency and everything else that you're talking about, and you've reached like the next level, right? But in terms of starting something, it definitely is about, if you say, I'm going to try to, work out something or be active like every day, then sometimes the most that you might be able to do is like 10 push-ups that morning. Right?
More than
but that's something.
I can't do 10 push-ups.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
But that's something that people, you don't have an excuse at that point.
Right.
And that's what it's about, is saying, like, if I'm going to start doing this and I want to start trying to form this habit, then even if I don't feel up to going and doing my, typical push day today, I'm at least going to do something, right?
And that's where I think sometimes you have to, when you're setting a goal, set the goal in relation to yourself. Don't set the goal in relation to what you heard other people do or what you read online, or even if someone's a professional, and like, that's great. That's great, and they can give you tips and healthy approaches. But if 10 push-ups is an achievement for you and an accomplishment, but doing push-ups in general is really good for your body. Yeah. Being able to do 10 is more than most people can do. Like, it's something to be proud of. And so I think that's what you have to think about, is like, what can I be proud of that makes sense for me? Right.
What can I feel confident in celebrating?
Yeah.
And even if like you're talking about running for an hour and then the next day it may have just been 10 minutes. But the thing about that is that if you just really didn't feel up to it that day, then that 10 minutes is still relative to you and how you felt that day. That's still an achievement. Yeah. And that's still something to celebrate. Yeah. Because you stuck with that consistency at the very least. Right?
Yep.
Good stuff.
No, I think another goal. Trying to think of some other goals, because I'm like constantly always like striving for something. So I'm always like setting goals for myself.
Me too, and I'm always not doing them.
I tend to. There's sometimes I'll set a goal, and I won't do it, and the reason why is because probably my motivation for doing it is not that strong. For example, this is a deep revelation that makes me feel stupid every time I talk about it. There was a period of time where I was like, I want to be a pop star, but I didn't tell anybody. It was just in my brain. Right. And it was, the reason why was because I wanted to be admired. Yeah. I wanted to do a hard thing, and I wanted to be admired, and I wanted to be admired for very specific things, which was like my looks, my ability to sing, my ability to dance, and also just being a chill, cool girl. Yeah. Yeah.
Swagalicious, as they say.
No. They
don't say that?
Not anymore.
They used to, man. Times have changed.
Times sure have changed. Where you been? But that goal was dumb. And it was just not rooted in anything that, like, there's lots of different ways for you to feel admired. And there's lots of different ways for you to be a cool, chill girl.
Yes, and so
so
you're saying that the reason, maybe, because I want to make sure this is clarified, that your goal was dumb was because it wasn't proportional and exactly what you needed to do in order to achieve what it was you really wanted. It was just kind of like a cool girl, like, standard, typical way of doing it. Yes, but maybe
it
wasn't
very lofty.
Yes, right, and which is maybe we can bring this into the foray as well. But dreams, right? Because that kind of sounds more like maybe a dream.
Or is it a goal?
Yeah, right.
It was certainly a dream.
Right, which isn't to say that it's not possible, but
it could have been.
But it's just to say that I guess dreams are kind of more like visions.
Yeah. You have to back it up
with goals and objectives and
actions,
mission statements.
Yes,
yeah,
and progression that I wasn't doing, But that's also because I think deep down I knew that it wasn't because like I want to touch the world. I want to inspire the people with my song. I want to teach I feel
like you're attacking me right now because that is what my stuff is.
Yes, but you make music. There's
barely,
but you do it. You do it. Now, why you're not consistent is where maybe another
environment.
Okay,
it's part of it is environment.
So when you're making music, is making
and habits.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that you want to make music.
Yeah.
You want to make music to reach people.
Yes.
And inspire and connect and entertain. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start positioning those in terms of that. I don't know if you want to do mission, vision, values, goals.
Okay. Man, the vision would be hard for that. I don't even know. I'd have to dig in deep to really understand what the...
Well, no, just tell me, what do you see? What do you envision when you daydream about it? What do you see?
What do I see? I guess I just see people being able to, maybe for a moment, if only just for a moment, like anything else that may have been troubling them or like eating at their mind, that like on the way to work or while going for a run or even just like laying on their couch, that listening to something brings them away from that and allows them to enter this like nice short flow state where they're like, wow, this is what's happening right now, right? But even on the opposite side of that, if they are feeling something negative, depending on what the intent of the song is for, maybe it might be to drag more of that out if they're kind of holding it in, right? Because it's good to let yourself feel those things.
So in some way you want to be either like a relief or a catharsis,
to give kind of people what they need in whatever it is they need in the moment,
okay.
And whatever the intent of that song is, that would be nice, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing with like the speaking my mind stuff. So
would you say that's your vision or your mission
for a world where people could read? Yeah, I guess that the vision would be for a world where people could choose, if they felt a certain way, for them to think, oh, let me listen to this song,
specifically by Zach Birdsong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then so that's your mission, your
vision.
That's your vision.
Because the mission then would be to, I guess I would say, be mindful and create the songs and curate them in ways that resonate with myself, but that also allow other people to, resonate with it as well. And whatever form that takes. For
a better connection.
Yeah, right.
So from me to you.
Yes.
With love.
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Okay.
The goal one of the goals would probably be to have an album and release it. That would probably be the first.
Okay.
Or maybe it's even smaller than that. Maybe the first one is just to release a song, just to finish and release a song, a single, right?
Okay.
Making it easier. So the objectives would then be like the steps to get to that point, which is sitting down consistently and like doing a paragraph every day, doing something every day towards finishing one song, right? Kind of, and maybe, and sometimes, it depends on the type of person. It's hard, it can be difficult for me to focus on one.
That's all right.
And so you kind of have to branch off a little bit sometimes to give yourself that refresher.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's important for knowing how your brain works.
Right. And that can be taken into account with your goals. Like if so maybe it's like your focus is on this one song, but as long as you're doing something like music related, like every day, whether it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes and whatever, then that's the thing. And one thing that I could do is the program that I use, it has templates that you can curate to make it easier to go from a blank slate to the song that you're wanting to create. And I have yet to make like a really nice template that I could use, that I could bring up whenever I'm ready to create something new, and it just make it so much easier for me to do that. So maybe that's an objective, right? Is to start working on that so that you're building the foundations for it to be easier with every song you try to create in the future. So I think a lot of this kind of comes down to, for people when they're trying to accomplish something, is it's not just environment, it's also making sure that you have and I guess that is kind of it's a part of the environment, having the base format of something set up in such a way that you that it's easier for you to get into it and really start moving, instead of having to worry about setting it up each and every time, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so that's how I would layer that for me.
What do you think are the primary barriers to achieving your goal, and what do you think you can do about it?
My already established habits that have nothing to do with that goal and those objectives, and recognizing that it's okay to stray away from those, because in part those habits that I already have, like one of them is gaming, and a part of that is to stay associated with people who aren't, with friends who aren't within this area, to stay in communication with them. But there are other ways to do that. It doesn't have to be through, something that could end up taking 3 hours of your evening because you're just having a good time and conversing with them, right?
Do you think that also what would help maybe is not, gaming altogether, or not gaming altogether, but like knowing, like having a rhythm, so that maybe it's not every, like if, let's say you're trying to make a song.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of song makers, unless people are just like prolific because it's just like they got to do it for some other reason, energetic reason. I almost feel like sometimes artists work in seasons like athletes do. And they have a period of time where they're working really hard, and then a lull period, and a learning period.
I think usually, and like you said, it depends, because maybe they just are nonstop with it.
Yeah, just depends.
For I think that those who have really made it, they have the opportunity to kind of do it in seasons where you work on an album together, and then you go on tour. That's typically the thing. But then after the tour, maybe that's where the lull is, right? That's when they're kind of like relaxing from traveling and doing all the performing that they had to do. And maybe that's when they're kind of more so in like their, base kind of creative phase, where they're just going about their life. And maybe if something comes to them, they're like, oh, maybe I'll, mess around with that or something. But it's not like a primary focus anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that can be important for finding your habits or your rituals on the broader, like if you're thinking about all of that stuff and scaling it up throughout the year, then sometimes if it feels daunting, if you're like, that seems exhausting, it could be that you can find a seasonal rhythm for achieving your goals.
Yeah, because sometimes they are easier. Like if someone wants to start running or walking, and they're not putting the barrier as low as maybe like running in place, because they just really feel like they need to. Not to say that that's just to say that like that's just where they have placed it for themselves, and so maybe it's better for them to try to start that like in the summer or something, when they know the temp's usually going to allow for something like that. But yeah, I think that makes sense. But I think for part of it for me is removing those barriers or those existing environmental elements that continue on the habits I already have. because I don't have, and I think a good question to ask is like, the habits that you have, the things that you're doing, are there any goals associated with those? Because if they're not, then it's like they're not conducive to your idealized life, right? Yeah. So like if you're just kind of, and that's where it comes into question, like, is there anything else I can do to get out of this, what I'm wanting to get out of it? Because maybe your goal is like, maybe like with playing games for me, I was saying that it's to like feel closer to friends who, you know, aren't really in the area. Well, then it doesn't really have anything to do with the game, right? So I can find other ways to reach that goal that maybe doesn't take up as much of my time, and I can then use that time to make more music or work on more music or do some more research into you know, this podcast or whatever it is, right? So I think that's a good question to ask yourself, is like, what habits are conducive to, you know, my long-term goals, and what aren't, and the ones that aren't, why am I doing them? Is there something that I'm trying to get out of them that I could otherwise do that would be more conducive to my actual goals? Or is it just not related to really anything at all, and it's just about that kind of maybe dopamine rush or something, right?
Yeah, I would say, because let's talk about the pod a little bit. Okay. So the pod is something that I think we're both pretty proud of, because it's something we're actually doing. Yeah, well, and it was kind of weird when I released episode 6. I was like, wow, 6 episodes. Like that's kind of nice, you know? When I saw the episode 6, I had a little bit of a different reaction. I was like, we have done so much. It's crazy. We've only released 6 episodes because we've recorded many. A lot. We have recorded a lot. Yeah, and we've talked about it a lot. But that goes to also habit forming. Like, the podcast is now a part of our daily habit, our weekly habit. But listen to this. So I get in the car, okay? I start driving here today. And guess what Google Maps does? Plays the pod? No, it's plays the. It's a map, Amber. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, now available on Google Maps, everybody. The A to Z podcast is now available on Google Maps. Please like and subscribe. No, Amber. No. Gosh. That is the dumbest thing I've ever said. I'm so sorry. Google Maps, when I got in the car this morning and it connected to the car, it said 31 minutes to travel to Fayetteville Library. It had established... It just knew you were going on Saturday. It knew on Saturday that around this time of day that the place that I was likely going to go to was the Fayetteville Library. Mine didn't do that, and I was upset because it gave me all these other options, and I was like, why isn't the Fayetteville Library in these options? You know I go here. Well, wait, so did you pull it up to, like, type it in? I had to type it in, yeah. Does it usually give you the... Sometimes it'll have, like, it for the past few weeks, it has it sitting there. Oh, it has it sitting there as a choice. Yeah. See, I'm saying that... It put the Bentonville Library at the top. I was like, I've only been there one time. See, I didn't even have to do anything. It came up as a notification telling me 30 minutes to the Fayetteville Library, and I clicked it, and I clicked go, and I was like, wow, there we go. And I was like, that's so crazy that out of all the episodes that we're recording, that the first time that would happen would be today, when we're talking about goals, and a part of that is habits and stuff. I'm glad you said whatever you said that made me remember that, because I wanted to bring it up. That the podcast is part of our habits now, because we at least once a day are talking about something related to the podcast. Yeah, right. Or the business of A to Z Media. We have a meeting once a week, a dedicated meeting once a week to talk about the upcoming episode, to talk about any administrative changes stuff. And we typically do it over food. Yeah. We do enjoy snack or food. Something. Yeah. So that is helpful, I think. That is, you're right. That is helpful. Yeah. Because it's very casual. Our meetings are casual. Because this podcast is casual. Yeah, that's the whole... Yeah. And so I think, but if we had a less casual podcast, we'd probably have less casual approach.
You'd probably have to just to prepare for it and, you know, keep your mind focused on what it is you're trying to talk about. Because, I mean, sometimes those meetings, it's like 20% podcast related and then like 80% a podcast episode, basically. It's just us talking, which is what this usually is. But
that's helpful because I think that's another thing. We've built over 3 years now a rapport of speaking to each other. Mm-hmm. And so even when we're talking about the podcast or discussing an idea or warming up, basically, I think that is a helpful habit because we practice.
Yeah, that's true.
And you don't even really necessarily recognize it because it's something we do naturally.
Right.
But we do. So that's an interesting thing when you think about music or you think about athletics or any type of goal you're trying to set, is that there is an element of habitual doing.
That consistency.
Yeah. And also just because I feel like if we were talking about something that could have been a podcast episode, I think my brain goes there. My brain thinks about it as if we're being listened to.
Right.
Now. And so then I feel like it helps me, like the biggest change, I feel like the biggest difference between when we're talking regular Zach and Amber versus when we're talking about something that feels like practice for the pod or the actual pod is that I pay attention to what you're talking about so that I can
Amber.
respond.
Thanks.
I'm sorry.
No, I understand.
But I do think it's helpful.
Yeah, it is.
Having that practice where I have to keep up with the flow of the conversation. I have to contribute. I have to know when to pause. I have to know, whatever. I think that does make for a better podcast episode when we do go to record.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think a big piece of getting organized in how we've needed to stay on top of our goals, because something we haven't been great at is researching ahead of time for episodes where we want to talk more pointedly about something that is fact-based. We have 2 episodes related to politics that we have not released. And it is because we have yet to figure out, I think, how we want to approach those things, but we know it's something that we want to do.
Right. Well, and that's practice. But I think, to your point, the hard part about episodes like that is it goes against the nature of what we're accustomed to.
The casualness.
Yes.
Yeah. It requires us to be more disciplined.
Right.
To call a spade, about researching, about outlining what we're going to talk about, which we're trying to be better about that.
Right.
And we now use Miro, which I'm so excited about.
Great app.
Yes, and it's free on Google. Shameless. I don't care. I'm going to plug it because it has helped me in the last week tremendously.
She loves it.
With getting organized because it works so well for my brain because I think circularly, very creative in my way of thinking, very networky.
It's almost like
my way of thinking.
It's like an infinite whiteboard.
Yes. And the nice part is, but it's not just white because it's got grid paper.
Yeah.
And something I realized very early, because when I was younger, we had to buy specific quadrilateral notebooks for math, I think it was. And there was something about the way that the grid looked that felt very comfortable to me, such that a lot of times when I need a notebook, I seek out that kind of paper.
Right.
Because it helps me to think abstractly better.
And that's an environment consideration.
It's an environment consideration. And if you're going to, because sometimes when you're looking at a notebook, I don't know if this happens to other people, but I get tunnel vision. So the way that I feel in the Miro board, where it's just like infinite and immersive, I have felt that way about paper.
Right.
And so for me, that is a big part of feeling like I'm really picky about what pen I'm going to use.
See, and that's a big part about figuring yourself out.
Yeah.
Because you can't be trying to go into these things and thinking, man, why isn't this working? It's because you need to try something different.
Yes. And that's okay.
Yes.
But what's not okay is if you really got to get something done, you got to get it done. But when you have the freedom to explore the techniques that you can stick with, that will keep you engaged, that will help you feel motivated. Figure that stuff out, because that's really important. It's really important for your long-term success.
Something I want to hit on too that you were talking about in regards to the podcast and that consistency is, and talking about it and stuff, and now you're thinking about it kind of daily whenever we're maybe having a conversation or maybe something comes to mind, a certain topic or whatever, is that any kind of change or new habit forming thing that you're trying to do, it's really important to remain mindful about it, and keep that in your mind. Because I know before we've talked about how maybe we had come to a realization about something regarding like ourselves,
and we forgot,
and you forget. Yeah. So if you forget, or you don't like keep thinking about it, and I think that's why like journaling can be so important, because you're consistently, every day you're like writing something about whatever it is that you remembered, or that you're trying to make sure you're keeping up with in regards to yourself or whatever it is, but you're consistently reminding yourself of those things. And I
think even just putting something down on paper in general and knowing where it is, because I use my notes app quite a bit, probably a little bit more than a notebook, because I can, and again, this goes to being able, because I love paper, don't get me wrong, I love paper, I love writing physically, it's the easiest way for me to learn. But in terms of me wanting to organize thoughts and stuff, I have to be able to move things around to where they're, and duplicate them as needed to where they need to be. And I feel like the Notes app is really good for that, because you can also like add a tag and sort and sift and pin, and you know what I'm saying? Yep. And so I feel like, but writing things down can be really helpful, because then you can come back if you're ever bored. Again, when you have that lull period in your life and you're like, what do I do next?
Right.
You can revisit the ideas that you had.
Yes.
And so like, and also that, again, clearing it out, it puts it somewhere so you don't have to. Because my brain, if I don't write something down but I think it's really important, I will like pin it, and my brain just keeps going back there, like hitting it. My therapist told me that that where my ADHD fails me in my memory, my anxiety picks it up.
Nice.
And goes boom, boom, boom. And so that I don't lose track of it. It's like, it almost literally feels like it's just like sitting there.
Right.
Like
writing it down gets that weight off.
Yes. So then that you can move forward with other things.
See, and I'm kind of, I wouldn't say like the opposite of that, but this goes back to making sure that you're doing whatever works for you. But if I write something down, depending on what it is, like 95% of the time, I'm never looking at it again. I'm never going to look at it again. So it's not like something that, my brain's like, oh, I should write this down, I'll go back to it. When I'm trying to stay consistent in thought about something that I want to be a part of, like my day-to-day or how I'm trying to think in a different way about something, I need to actually think about it. Like I need to remind myself, this needs to be circulating within my brain at some point throughout the day, or else over time it's just going to kind of fade away.
Have you ever taken the time to meditate on a goal?
No, but that's something I think that's basically what it is that I do sometimes though throughout at any given point in the day. If I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of, but I'm doing it conversationally. I'll kind of have a conversation with myself in my head, because I'm very conversation oriented, and I think that's why writing isn't like a good outlet for me. It's because there's nothing popping back, but if I'm thinking about it with myself, then that kind of that helps me out a lot.
I wonder if writing it as a dialogue
maybe
would work.
Maybe I should try that. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
That way you do.
I think sometimes, like
or voice notes. Have you done that before? Have you ever recorded?
The only notes I tend to listen back to are like music, melody ideas and stuff. I feel like if I were to record, well, I don't know, maybe saying it out loud would help too. I'll try both of those things. But that kind of goes into too, which is what we've been talking about, is how do you communicate your goals with yourself? as well. 'Cause
Do you lie to yourself like I do and tell yourself, I don't want that? No. But I do.
Yeah, that's a good question. Everybody ask yourself if you lie to yourself, like Amber does. Or alternatively, if you just plan things and tell yourself you'll do something, but you don't, like me.
Yeah.
Are you a Zach or are you an Amber?
Are you a liar or you just abandon yourself?
My God. You were like, how can I make Zach's circumstance sound worse than my own?
Are you treacherous? Never mind. I was going to say the B word. But communicating your goals. I tend to, when I really want to achieve something, I tend to not talk about it. Once something is real for me, it's just a part of my life. And so, or like I'm actively doing it. And I tend not to always talk about what I'm doing. I'll talk about my ideas and what I think about things that aren't real, kind of. I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
You talk about things that aren't real.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I talk less about things. It's almost like this. Like when I...
Oh, that does make sense. Okay, yes. It just clicked in my brain. Yeah. What's there to say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is there to say? There's nothing to talk about. Like, I'm going to be like, yeah, like, man, I did this Pilates and I really felt like this time my hips really got involved.
Yeah,
in a
they
different
really
way
opened
today.
up.
Yeah, they really opened up. Like, I'm not going to say that.
The hinges came off the door.
Yeah, or like with the pod, I don't feel like I'm going to be like sometimes I'll be like, yeah, we record, but I only say that when people ask me. Like, I only talk about the podcast when people ask me, or like to my mom and dad, sister out, like I'll talk about it.
Right.
Or to Kale, I'll talk about it. But other than that, I don't really talk about it with anybody else who's not. And in some way, I feel like that's just because you're doing it with me, and then they're just like my emotional part of like my emotional tribe. So I'll talk about it with them, you know.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to like goals you have for a relationship or for work, then communicating, like, you need to be clear in communicating those, right?
I'm better about communicating my goals in a relationship. I'm not as good. I'm not always good about communicating my goals at work. And that's because if you do that and then people go, okay, yeah. And then now that's what you're doing. And I feel like you got to be ready for it before you, sorry. If you guys hear a thing in the background,
that's because Amber's hitting her leg with her phone.
I'm fidgeting.
For dramatic effect.
No, it's because I'm fidgeting with my phone right
When
now.
you did it the second to last time, I was like, okay, it looks like it's stalled. And then you like started to go up and come down again, but you didn't hit it. I was like, okay, we're good. And then you did it, and I was like, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
I was like, okay, I'm going to have to say something.
Yeah.
I think that for some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because people feel like it's cheesy, or people feel like that they see it so often with, you know, their workplace or organizations or whatever. People don't seem to really talk about like family goals or relationship goals as much as...
I feel like a lot of people don't want families anymore, and that's why I won't talk about it.
Maybe that might be part of it, but like the idea of having like family values or you know, like spousal values or whatever, like I think that needs to be a bit more normalized. I think people need to, and like goals and stuff too, like what are you trying to accomplish, you know, together, like all that stuff needs to be a bit more formalized and normalized. Because you know, it's not like a business, but I feel like with anything important to you, and with anything important to you in your life, there needs to be when it involves other people, you need to make sure that you have clear, communicated ideas of what those things are.
Yeah. Part of that is probably the loss of religion.
I think that is some of it.
Because I feel like whenever, in any type of like sermons that I've heard when they start talking about family and spouses and stuff, like obviously they're like, God is the head of your marriage, of your household. And then they also get into the order of like, then there's the husband, then there's the wife, then there's children. But then like the objective is like to have a house that serves the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. A marriage, children, you try to instill that in them. I think a lot of people who are in like high power couples, where they're like their couple's their business partner or their objective as a couple is to achieve a certain wealth status, they have very clear cut goals.
They do. Yeah. And they have a very clear understanding of what they expect from each other.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that. I think that but that is a good point with the religion element, because I think that does drive like a really firm, because there's a pretense of it within the religion itself, and you kind of have that with a lot of different religions. They all have something there with like what to expect from the
Christian.
Yeah, right. But then I think that even within that, you need to have like specific goals and values tailored to your family. So it's still something that even outside of religion people can have, and in addition to religion, whatever the idea of, the makeup of that needs to be, it needs to be tailored for your family and each individual person within your family too, recognizing that while you're a family unit, you're also still all it's a family unit made up of individuals.
Yeah, I almost felt like when I was growing up, I felt like my family was kind of oriented around, like, there were some things that my parents, I felt, that stood out to me about how my parents were raising us. My parents were very adamant about how we, I would say, like, how we behaved. Like, that we were very... it wasn't like a clearly articulated thing. Like, it wasn't intentional, but they were just very, like, don't burden other people was, like, a big thing that came from my dad. My mom would always be like, if you're going to give somebody something, give them something good. If you loan somebody, if you give somebody money, give it as a gift. Don't expect it back. You can be cordial with people, but you don't have to like them. But... treat them kind of with respect or whatever.
Yeah, I like those.
My parents, I feel like they really were, in our formative years, like, that was really important to them. And then, like, I watched both my parents, like, my parents are very giving. And so, like, them just always kind of, in some way, being of service to other people. So I think that that's something that I think they wanted us to be like that. And so I felt like... And then my dad's whole thing a lot of the time was like, every generation advances the family in some way. And so whether that's like financially, like, or you're setting a new standard, like, there were people who, they're the first person in the family to go to college, first person to become a doctor, first person to make this kind of salary. And so that is something that I felt pressure for in my early 20s, was like, how am I going to
take the next step?
Yeah. And I think that what I've really done, and partially because of what, like, one, moving and doing, like, becoming very independent and, like, self-sufficient was very important to me, because I felt like my dad and my sister really embodied that. So that was really important to me, to figure out how I could do that for myself. And I feel like I've done that. And then... to figure out, like, what was my advancement going to be. In some ways, I think the articles that I've written, like working in TV, now working for the pod, that is my very unique contribution, I think, to what has been achieved, at least on my dad's side. But I think in terms of my own personal goals for what I want from my partner, which I've communicated to him several times, and partners in the past, but specifically him, and he's receptive to it. I was like, I want really sweet, kind, wonderful, feral children.
Nice addition.
Like,
there at
I
the
want
end.
some really good kids who are just wildly themselves.
Right.
And I want them to be safe and grow up in a house where they have the utmost respect for other living beings, particularly animals, but other people too. Like, be a good, like, just good kids,
Right.
man.
See, well, and those are values and goals that you can help instill. And in doing that as a family, I think that really helps bond a family as well. Because then you're all able to acknowledge, like, okay, this is what we're about, you know?
And then we get to tend to, because I feel like my parents were really good that we grew up in a house, like, we're all four very different people, and we know how to give each other space. And that's always been like our joke would be like, we would go out and we'd spend all day together doing something, and then one of us would be like, don't say my name for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And then the other ones would be like, I wasn't going to. And like go, and then we'll just split off and do our own thing.
Yeah.
And then, or like maybe two of us will go over here, two of us will go over here, but nobody be annoying.
Right.
And I feel like what I hope with any children that I have is that we all have like very unique things, and we're willing to like go along with each other on whatever journey, but recognizing like we're all different people and we're walking this life and we're companions, you know. And so at some point my parents became my friends, and so at some point for my kids, like, I will be your parent, but one day I'll get to be your friend too.
Yes. Yep.
And like, and then we will be walking through this life together. And that's like my goal for, I think, just all my relationships, is to be a really good companion. I don't need to be all this other stuff, but just know that I'll be there with you.
Exactly. I was just about to say, just to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I 100% agree. I don't have yeah, not really. No, like that, like when it all comes down to it, I think, because it goes along with what I've said about how I just want to be myself at the end of the day, is just to be there and be a presence that at least most of the time is, you know, welcome and is seen as a benefit, you know, to people. And as far as like the authentically themselves, like that's a big point as well, is just for people to have that acceptance, accept who you are, I guess always within certain confines, you know, but to accept that, and maybe not even necessarily within certain confines as much as it is to accept yourself, but be pro-social and be mindful about how it is that you're affecting others through accepting because accepting yourself doesn't mean to accept your actions necessarily. It just means to accept like who you are, and actions are a part of it, but you can have certain thoughts or feelings and act differently, you know, on them. Yeah. So I guess that's what it comes down to. But yeah, you said that very aptly.
So those are some of our goals, insight into how we think about that.
How we navigate habits.
Yeah, how we navigate habits. But I feel like in the comments, we'd love to hear.
Please.
Like, what are your goals? And like, have you achieved one recently? Maybe we can, if we read them, we can shout out if you want us to share what your goals are.
We'll shout you out.
If you have any really helpful resources or links on goals that you want to share with us, you can, if you have me or Zach's number, you can text us, obviously.
Yeah.
You can connect with us on Threads, on Instagram, Facebook primarily. You can also email us at a2zmedia@gmail.com if there's any resources you want to share with the budding community that you're a part of.
Let us know what like new habit forming steps you've taken that have worked for you,
and how to break a habit. If you've had to break a habit to start going in a different direction, let us know how you did it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Should we go ahead and mention I didn't add it to the last one about the book.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to start sprinkling in some moments where we can respond to some texts in this world, some sources. So sometimes it'll be a book. Sometimes it can be an album, guys. Fun, cute. We're not music critics, but
we're both that girl.
About it. Movies, TV, season, series, whatever. Just because they're topics of conversation, and one of the big things we want to do, one of our goals for this podcast, is to model and to also go through conversation and how you can talk about things, how you can express yourself, how you can negotiate within a conversation, how you can learn to communicate better, and understand what other people are trying to communicate to you better. Right. And so we are starting with a book called Abundance. It's by Ezra Klein and another dude.
Yep, I always forget the other dude's name.
So just type in Abundance, Ezra Klein, and you'll find it.
Sorry, other guy. We'll mention your name whenever we do the book episode.
Probably. Zach's reading hard copy. I'm reading it. I'm listening to it on Spotify. If you have that, if you have an unlimited Spotify plan, you can, you have a certain amount of listening hours. If you go above that, you do have to pay a little bit more per month, but you get unlimited listening hours. Right. So feel free to listen or read with us, and we'll probably talk about it.
We'll release it maybe at the end, near the end of November, beginning December.
Yeah.
Around that time.
Because I'm a slow reader.
Yeah.
Even
and
when
listener.
I'm listening.
Yeah. She's a slow listener, everybody. She listens to the audiobook on Spotify at 0.5 times the speed.
I don't do that. But I'm not consistent at listening sometimes. But yeah. So join us on that journey, and if you have any recommendations for things you want the community to respond to, hit us up on all the platforms that I just previously mentioned. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you go.
Thanks, everybody, again.
Thank.
Oh, I started doing the Nickelodeon theme.
Oh. Okay.
Thanks, everybody, for listening again to another episode of the A to Z podcast. Like we said previously, we hope that you comment, share, like, subscribe, do all the things. Until next time, farewell.